Who do they say I am? To me, that is such a curious Jesus question. And I heard it echoed in the commentary of Emerson, Byron, Powery. Powery is a professor of biblical studies with a PhD from Duke. And in the commentary to the Gospel of Mark, which is found in the People's Bible, this is how Powery describes himself. He says, I am part of the first generation of my family born in the United States. My two older siblings were born in the Cayman Islands in the Caribbean. My parents moved to New York City in the 60s. Our West Indian American family comfortably receives other ethnic labels. And that's where I hear the echo of who do they say I am. In addition to being a West Indian American family, they would also say Afro-Caribbean, Afro-American, and Black. Powery points out that this mixed racial labeling which he received helps him to understand the differences and the tensions which are part of the ancient biblical stories. Some things others of us might miss. And he hears these differences and tensions in the Gospel of Mark. Who do they say I am? Who do you say I am? Who do you say you are? These questions are important. You know, when Jesus asked the disciples, who do they say I am? He got a lot of different answers. Some of them say you are John the Baptist. Some say Elijah. Some say you are a prophet. But isn't it curious that no one was saying he was Joseph's son? They weren't saying he was the son of a carpenter, and they weren't saying he was a Galilean. Interesting. When Jesus asked the disciples who they said he was, when he asked, who do you say I am? Peter quickly answered, you are the Messiah, the Christ. So I have a question. What is a Messiah? What comes to mind when you hear that word? What does Jesus the Messiah look like to you? What does it remind you of? Somewhere along the line for me, I grabbed hold of the image that the Messiah was Jesus with his arms extended, floating in the sky. When I Google Messiah, and then I refined the search to Christian images, that's exactly what I find. The Messiah is Jesus with his arms open, ready to save the world, floating in the sky. But you know what? In the first century, which is when Jesus lived and when the Gospel of Mark was put together, that was not how they understood Messiah. In the first century, a Messiah was a militaristic political figure who was able to not only overthrow a government, but establish a new one. A militaristic political figure. That's who Peter said Jesus was. Who do you say Jesus is? Which Jesus are you talking about? Which Jesus do you follow? In the next part of the story, Jesus begins to explain what would happen to a Messiah and what would happen to those who follow.